on Colorado's non-existent fleeing felon law, and this is in relation to Paige Pierce. So, is Paige Pierce within the guidelines of Colorado law or not? This doesn't apply to Dalton because he didn't even try to flee. And there's a lot of questions I got with the Dalton Buckholes case, a lot of questions. Canyon City, the Fremont County, they're the ones that killed Candace Hiltz. I think that's because she saw cops doing a drug deal. So she witnessed cops doing a drug deal, and they realized that she was a threat to their cop ship. And the thin blue line says, CRS 18-1-707 is using force to make an arrest or to prevent an escape. There's 9 sections, and I'm going to go through all 9 sections right now. So in Colorado 18-1-707, when you make an arrest or to stop somebody from escaping an arrest, whether it's in jail, whether they're in a cop car, whether they're trying to put the handcuffs on immediately, you can use force. You could use force up to deadly force. You could even use a chokehold. I thought chokeholds were banned, but nope. You could still use chokeholds, and you could still use deadly force in Colorado when you're trying to make an arrest. But there's some exceptions. So Section 1, when you're making an arrest to effectuate an arrest or to prevent the escape of one who has already been arrested, you're supposed to use reasonable and appropriate physical force. Reasonable and appropriate. That's the name, that's the law, that's Colorado. So reasonable and appropriate physical force. That just sets you off. That's the control. That's the standard. When you make an arrest, you can use reasonable and appropriate physical force. That's the goal. That's what you want, right? Moderate, not too much, not too little. Reasonable and appropriate physical force. Just enough, not too much, not over and beyond. Just get the arrest or prevent the person from escaping. Section 2, deadly force can be used when A, to prevent deadly force, right? Of course, if there's going to be possibly deadly force happening, somebody's got a gun in their shit, then deadly force could be used. So if deadly force is going to be used on you or on a third person, then deadly force can be used against the person to make the arrest. So deadly force can be used to prevent deadly force, A, this is Section 2, or B, when during the arrest or preventing the escape of the arrested, the cop thinks one of 3 things. 1, or I, the subject had or attempted to or is committing a felony with a deadly weapon. 2, or I, subject is attempting to escape with a deadly weapon. Or 3, indicates he, which, how sexist, is likely to endanger human life or serious bodily injury of, or cause serious bodily injury of another, unless apprehended without delay, except through a motor vehicle violation, which suggests that a car is not a deadly weapon. Section 2.5a says chokeholds are legal. If you want to get you got to get the perpetrator, you got to arrest him, right? Or to stop the arrested from escaping. If you got to use a chokehold, you got to use a fucking chokehold. But Part C of Section 2.5a, just like Section 2, Part 3, Part III, in Roman numerology, says that there's an exception through a motor vehicle loophole. Except through a motor vehicle. So they're talking about if the person has a deadly weapon, if they're committing a felony with a deadly weapon, if they're likely to endanger human life. All these things, I'm thinking with Paige Pierce, she's kind of guilty, right? If she gets in a car and she's driving towards other cars or driving towards a city or houses, if she's just driving in a desolate road and there ain't shit or nobody that's around, then he can't say he was, preventing her from harming another person. All that sounds like, and to me, my opinion would be that a car is a fucking deadly weapon. Are you kidding? How many people have died with a vehicle? Of course a car is a deadly weapon. But there's 2 parts in 18-1-707, which would be the fleeing felon, whatever section. More like the chokehold and deadly force section of cops. So the chokehold and deadly force section says that you could use chokeholds to, get the arrest, to stop the arrested from escaping. But if you think that they're, if they have a deadly weapon, if they're committing a felony with a deadly weapon, if they're about to endanger human life, And the way that it says in Section 2, Part 3, it indicates he is likely to endanger human life or cause serious bodily injury of another unless apprehended without delay. And so you would think if they get into a car, but it specifically says except through a motor vehicle violation. Are they trying to say that the traffic laws, take care of this? So this doesn't apply to traffic is the traffic laws, and so they just get exclusive, rights or whatever over it? Except through a motor vehicle, except with a motor vehicle. So if they have a deadly weapon, you could shoot them in the back, and you can kill them. If they got a deadly weapon, if they got a gun, if they got a tire iron, right? A deadly weapon is anything that can kill another person. So if they have a cattle prod, you got a cattle prod, well, shit. You're trying to, escape, or you're trying to stop yourself from being arrested after you just committed a felony, and you got a cattle prod, you could be shot. You could be shot in the back of the head. Indicates he is likely to endanger human life or cause serious bodily injury of another unless apprehended without delay, except through a motor vehicle violation. This suggests that Colorado law does not view a vehicle as a deadly weapon. So if you have a deadly weapon, if you got a gun, if you got several guns, if you got a tire iron, if you got a what the fuck ever, a crowbar, if you got a metal pipe, if you got a candlestick, if you have a blunt force of rock, if you got a big-ass rock, and you're trying to run away and you're trying to stop yourself from getting arrested, they could kill you. They could shoot you, they could kill you, they could stop you, they could shoot you in the back, shoot you in the front, shoot you all over the place. If they think that they're trying to save human life, if they're trying to, so unless they are engaged in a motor vehicle violation, unless they're using a motor vehicle, and then somehow that is an exception that says that deadly force cannot be used. It's not really a gun, right? If they get in their car and they drive away, it's not really like they have a gun and it's a vehicle. They're just trying to flee, right? They're not trying to hurt other people. They're just trying to get away. Okay, so that's Section 2.5. Chokeholds are legal. And it has those two exceptions. Section 3, to arrest a person to stop them from escaping arrest. Those are the three main sections or parts that apply to Paige Pierce, but I'll be able to fly through these other ones. Section 3, to arrest a person or stop them from escaping arrest. Chokeholds and deadly force can be used, but that doesn't mean that cops are allowed to be reckless or criminally negligent. Duh, no fucking shit, right? So they're just kind of... Section 4, if a cop knows that a warrant is invalid or that the person is innocent, they can't put him in a chokehold or they can't kill a person. You can't use deadly force. You can't use reasonable, whatever appropriate force to effectuate an arrest of an innocent person, or if the warrant was invalid. So if you know the person to be guilty, this is going to apply to if a cop tells you to help them arrest somebody, but you know that person to be innocent, you don't have to obey them. But if you know them to be guilty, you have to obey. You have to obey. So it matters your perception, what you know, what you think you know about the situation. So that's Section 4, right? Section 3, cops can't be reckless or criminally negligent. Of course, Section 4, if a cop knows that a warrant is invalid, that a person is innocent, they can't kill the person or put them in a chokehold. Section 5, if a citizen who obeys a cop's commands to help arrest or stop an escapee knows the person to be innocent, they're not obligated to obey. Section 6, it's a repetition of Section 5. Section 7, a private person can arrest a felon or prevent the escape of a felon if the felon commits the felony in their presence. So they can arrest a felon. They can, deadly force and chokeholds can be used in order to effectuate that arrest. And jailers, Section 8, jailers can use deadly force against felons trying to escape as a last resort. In Section 9, it defines that a detention facility is just regular-ass jail. You go to fucking jail, that's a detention facility. You try to escape detention facility and you're a felon, and they can use deadly force against you. So that's all 9 sections. That's all 9 sections of 18-1-707, using force to make an arrest or to prevent an escape, also known as the deadly force and chokehold law. You could just say it's the chokehold law, right? So the chokehold law says that you can use deadly force. Chokeholds are deadly force. It's legal. So, yeah, it wasn't banned. It's still legal to use. Now, let's apply this to the 2 cases. Dalton didn't even flee, right? I mean, Fremont County, they're the ones that killed Candace Hiltz because she saw the cops doing a drug deal. So Candace Hiltz witnessed the cops doing a drug deal, and they killed her? I don't know. That sounds... Woo! Has anybody been arrested? Anybody get in trouble for that? So that's Canyon City, Fremont County. Dalton Buckholes. He didn't even flee. He didn't even flee. I have a shit ton of questions for that case. But he didn't flee, so none of this is, using force to make an arrest or to prevent an escape. Did he try to get out of his car? Did he try to back his car up? At any point in time, did he try to flee? It sounds like he's just sitting in his car patiently with his hands on the steering wheel. Now, nowhere, they just jump him, they crash their car into his car, and then they shoot and kill him, and then they injure his buddy, and then that's it. That's what it's, that's the reports of the family. So there's like 3 or 4 reports. It's like saying they're plainclothes, regular-ass dudes in a regular-ass car, and they just show up, and the 2 they're unarmed, had no weapons whatsoever, wasn't doing nothing, wasn't trying to run away, wasn't trying to flee. Just all of a sudden, regular-ass car, regular-ass dudes pop up and start popping, kill the driver, injure the passenger, and then shut the fuck up, right? The cops could do no wrong. Let's not talk about it. Don't ask a single question about, there's a lot of questions I have with that. But he wasn't, I guess he might have tried to flee. I thought maybe this could apply, but it feels like Paige Pierce, Paige Pierce, the way I understand her arrest is that this is in a rural in the middle of nowhere, and they go to arrest her, and when they go to arrest her, maybe because they witnessed a drug deal or some shit, she's running off. And they didn't want to chase her, so they just shot because they're lazy and incompetent. That's what it sounds like to me. So it seems like Paige Pierce actually got, she got a running start. There was a short chase. She tried to run off and then got shot up because of that. So it feels like this, is she guilty or is she not guilty? So according to 18-1-707, Paige Pierce did not have to get killed. She is not guilty. We don't have a fleeing felon law in Colorado. Fleeing felon laws, you could shoot a felon in the back for whatever fucking reason. No, in Colorado, you could shoot a felon in the back if they got a gun, if they just committed the felony, if they just committed a felony with a gun, if they have a gun and they're using the gun or they have some other deadly weapon. They use the deadly weapon to commit a fucking crime, and then they're using the deadly weapon to get the fuck away. Then you can use lethal force. But if it's just, say there's a felon, there's a prisoner exchange, so one jail is passing the prisoner to another jail, and then one motherfucker runs off, well, is it a felon or is it a misdemeanor, right? You got to know that. And if it's a felon, then you're allowed to shoot the guy if he has a weapon. But if he's just running off and he's, got prison garb and he's running off in handcuffs, you can't just... That's cruel, just shooting a guy like that in the fucking back that has no weapon, no gun, he's just running off. So, yeah, there is a balance. There is a balance here that needs to be struck. Common law isn't real law, so none of this matters, but this is just, there's a fleeing felon rule, right? A felon tries to flee, you try to arrest a felon, and when they're in the cop car, when they're in the jail, they try to run away, pop, 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 shoot them in the back, who gives a flying fuck, right? That's a fleeing felon rule, but Colorado does not have that because there's exceptions. You can only shoot at a felon if they have... So I've said it over and over again, right? Just sections 1 and 2. You can use reasonable and appropriate force, and then number 2, you can use deadly force if something or another is happening. If there's like 3 things, right? You can use deadly force to prevent deadly force, and then you can use deadly force to prevent escape or an arrest if the person attempted to commit a felony with a deadly weapon, if they're attempted to escape with a deadly weapon, or 3, indicate that they're likely to endanger human life, or they're going to cause serious bodily injury to another person unless apprehended without delay. So there's threat to human life, there's threat to body, serious bodily injury. There's attempted to escape with a deadly weapon, attempted to commit a felony with a deadly weapon. And there you go. So that's Section 2. That's when you could use deadly force. 1, to prevent, right, the imminent use of deadly physical force. He's about to kill you, or he's about to kill another person. You can shoot and kill them. If you're trying to arrest them, if they're trying to run away, they're trying to kill you, trying to kill a third person, you can use deadly force. You can put them in a chokehold. That's A. And B, there's 3 things for B. While you're effectuating an arrest, while you're getting the arrest, while you're arresting the motherfucker to stop the arrested from running away, there's 3 things. They had attempted to commit a felony with a deadly weapon. They were attempted to escape with a deadly weapon. Or 3, they're likely to endanger human life or cause serious bodily injury. So major fucking violence is about to happen, or they're going to hurt or kill another person. So essentially to save human life, right? So let's use those Section 2 and those, all those distinctions with Paige Pierce. So Paige Pierce, she gets in her car and she drives away, and there's not any vehicles on the road, and there's no houses, anybody nearby. It's totally desolate, rural fucking area where there's just, then she's not guilty. Then there's no imminent, use of deadly physical force. She isn't trying to kill the cop or trying to kill another person. She's just trying to get the hell away, right? And so that's A, right? Now B says that while she's being arrested or to prevent escape, now did she commit a felony with a deadly weapon? So maybe a crack pipe or something. I think it's drugs or some shit, right? So she had a crack pipe in her. That's not, committed a felony with a deadly weapon. I don't know. I don't know if she had a deadly weapon. I would think that they would say, hey, they found a gun at the scene, but they didn't find a gun. They didn't report it. They didn't mention anything. So, yeah, it would seem like that would be one of the first things that they would mention. There was a gun at the scene. So did Paige Pierce attempt to commit a felony with a deadly weapon? I don't think so. Did Paige Pierce attempt to escape with a deadly weapon? If we're going to use motor vehicles and say that they're not deadly weapons, like I said, my opinion is, but right? The law is the law. My opinion don't matter. When it comes to a deadly weapon, if the vehicle is not a deadly weapon, then was she attempting to escape? It wasn't like she was using a gun, shoot at the cops so she could run away. So that's a no, too. Now, is she likely to endanger human life or serious bodily injury? Perhaps she thought that, she could run into somebody, high-speed chase. This is going to be a hot pursuit, a high-speed chase. Shit could happen. This is dangerous. This isn't good for anybody. Now, I feel like that's a reasonable and possible, assumption and why a person might shoot at a person who's in a vehicle who's trying to drive away. I mean, you're in a speeding, that's a 2-ton bullet that could hurt somebody. So they would have to, either to prevent deadly force, which there wasn't imminent deadly force being used against him or another person, or when they were trying to arrest or stop her from escaping, that she had used a deadly weapon to commit a felony. She did not. She was using a deadly weapon to try to escape. She was not. Or that there might have been a possibility to endanger human life or a serious bodily injury could occur. So those could be a possibility, but is that what the police officer assumed? We don't know unless we, hear from the police officer, actually hear from his own mouth what was the reason. Why'd you kill her? Hey, why'd you kill Paige Pierce? What was the reasoning? What was the point? And then it goes on to Section 2.5a, but they both have that except through a motor vehicle. So this is good news and great news for the Paige Pierce estate, assuming they can get their shit together and organize. Stop, bitching about who's making money off the T-shirts. Everybody make money off the T-shirts. Let's everybody talk. Everybody should speak about Paige Pierce. Everybody should talk about Paige Pierce until you can't talk about Paige Pierce no more. Paige Pierce is you, motherfucker. That could have happened just as easily as anything. You don't know. Until the body camera and shit, with the way that the cops are acting, they're acting fucking, you don't know. You don't know. You cannot, it's a coin toss, so you can't be sure one way or the other. And I just went through the thing, so ultimately, she wasn't using the gun to try to get away from anybody. She wasn't using the gun to commit the felony. If she had a crack pipe, in her vehicle, well, she bought some fucking crack, and then, it was a nice, peaceful business exchange. There was no violence whatsoever, and then she's peacefully riding dirty or whatever, and then he tries to pull her over, and then she tries to drive away, and then he fucking shoots her in the back. I mean, that's a fucking bullshit. That's a motherfucker who's just pissed off that she didn't stop. I told you to obey, so you better fucking stop. That's not a person that said, oh shit, she's getting away in a car, and she might hurt other people when she's in that car. Maybe he thought that. Maybe. But I feel like with cops and the way they are with their goddamn egos, to me it seems more reasonable to think that, just like Samantha Ramsey in Kentucky, she tried to, the cop wanted her to stop and she didn't obey, so he jumped on the hood and shot and killed her. You need to obey. That's the most important fucking thing in the world. Who gives a shit if they know CRS or the Constitution or anything? Just fucking obey, you piece of shit. They're a cop, they got the gun, they got the power, shut the fuck up, right? You just obey. So she didn't have, we're going to, assume that those two exceptions, the great news, there's no car. A car is not a deadly weapon. That's an incredible exception. That you need to get a lawyer to say, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? A car is not a deadly weapon. It's only the traffic laws apply to cars. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course, a vehicular manslaughter is a possibility, so how are you saying it's not a weapon? But that's great news that they have the no-car exceptions to both of those, chokehold and deadly force uses. And also, it's good news because there is no fleeing felon law in Colorado. You cannot shoot and kill somebody in Colorado just because, they were in jail, in custody, just because if you don't know what they actually did or did not do, if they're a felon, and you know that they committed a felony with a loaded weapon or with a deadly weapon, you could use deadly force. But if you just see somebody in an orange, somebody in stripes in orange, fucking whatever jumpsuit that they give you in prison, they're just running and they got handcuffs, you can't just shoot them in the back. You can't just shoot that person in the back. Now, deadly force and chokeholds are legal. I mean, all those police reforms, I thought they said that chokeholds were banned or maybe they're restricted or something, but they're not banned. Chokeholds are still legal, according to the 18-1-707. So this is great news for Paige Pierce's estate. This is great news. There's no fleeing felon law in Colorado. Using the standards for when you can use deadly force, none of them apply to her. And then there's a specific exception about motor vehicles, which seems to suggest that Colorado law does not look at motor vehicles as a deadly weapon, which means she wasn't threatening anybody with any kind of deadly weapon, which means no chokehold could have been used against her, nor any deadly force. You can't shoot her in the back. You can't shoot her in the back of the car. You can't shoot at all. Deadly force can't be used at all. And that's two exceptions, Section 3, Part 3, and Section 2.5, Part 3. A vehicle is not a deadly weapon. A vehicle is not a deadly weapon, according to 18-1-707, and she has to have a deadly weapon to commit the felony or to try to run away from being arrested. She has neither one of those. I didn't hear about no AK. I didn't hear about no AR-15. She wasn't, shooting no gun while she was trying to run off. He tried to arrest her. She's, white woman, maybe fell in love with her the moment he saw her too, and he's like, how dare you, white woman, try to run away from me, and open fire. Well, I guess you're not going to run nowhere now. I guess that's going to stop you from running forever. So, you're not, it's not heroic. I wish the cops could have done any other thing but that. But since they're not releasing the dash and the body cams, we have no idea. We have no idea what the fuck even happened. What was the fucking point? It could all be totally corrupt, right? What she mouthed off to somebody, was it like Candace Hill? She saw cops doing a drug deal, and so what the fuck? And, other news, there's another mass shooting, so in more depressing news, another mass shooting, so maybe if we pass more gun laws, maybe 15 more gun laws, maybe that'll stop the mass shootings. And it was at a birthday party in a trailer park. Birthday party, oh, a bunch of adults at a birthday party? Okay. At a trailer park? None of that sounds right at all. What the, maybe if we had birthday parties, but, no, there's something, that's not what happened. That's not, the media is already getting it wrong. But we got another mass shooting, right? So maybe we should pass a couple more laws, huh? So there you go. Not guilty when it comes to Dalton Buckholes. What was he doing? Not enough to deserve death. What was Paige Pierce doing? Not enough to deserve death. Not guilty for Dalton Buckholes and Paige Pierce. Guilty for the Delta County Police and for the Canyon City Police. Guilty. And that's it. If I'm the judge, you know, bang the gavel, we all go home. And so, there you go. That's on the fleeing felon law. There is no such thing in Colorado. No such thing as a fleeing felon law. No such thing. If a felon is running off, most of the time, you could shoot him in the back, back of the leg, back of the arm, back of the back, back of the head, back of the neck. Just shoot them all over, right? Usually, typically. But they got to be dangerous. They got to have a weapon. They got to be en route, the hot pursuit. They had to have just done, you know, have blood all over. You get the point. All right. Try to treat each other better.